Sunshine and 40 here in Casper, 41 at the airport, and all the way up to 44 downtown.
Yeah, still some cloudy skies, though. More clouds on their way in. 2-3 mile-an-hour breeze out of the south-southwest. Frankie, you know the Giants and the Redskins open up the season tonight. Giants not getting a whole lot of respect in this. Super Bowl champs, aren't they?
Reminds you last year, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They didn't get a whole lot of respect on the way to the Super Bowl.
Isn't that the truth?
Didn't get any respect playing in the Super Bowl until they won it.
Yeah, well, they're getting, they actually, through some injuries, through some trades, lost some personnel, and I'm not sure it's the same team that they had last year either.
No. Strahan is retired. Humanora is out for the season. They're not going to be the same.
Well,
if you'd ask me today who the Super Bowl is going to be,
who?
How about Dallas, New England?
Dallas, New England.
Dallas, New England.
All right. Well, we'll see. I'm going to jot that down, and we get the NFL season underway. By the way, there's an Indianapolis fan in my studio. Security? Security? Could you please come escort this woman out of here?
Get him out of there.
Indianapolis fans are not allowed in the K2 radio studios. The matriarch of the Womack family is along for the ride this morning. By the way, kids, you can sail if you would like, as I do have some special guests in studio, and the Womack family well represented. Young Stephen is an educator up at Casper College. Bobby Womack used to be a car salesman here in town, and Jonathan Womack is an author living in Boston. Is that right?
That's correct.
A New England fan. Great. That's just what I needed in studio. A New England fan and an Indianapolis fan. How did I rate this morning? Nice to have you with us, Jonathan. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, Brian.
Good. I'd say welcome home, but this is not home for you. Although I see you're quite a Rocky Mountain fan with your writing.
I am. I came out here when I was young with my family and fell in love with the Rocky Mountains, and had a few return trips, and now all that has gone into my writing all these years later.
Well, here you are. I hate to point it out, but you're not the youngest fellow out there. You know, you're pushing 50 for heaven's sake, and now 2 books. What have you done with your life up until this point in time?
Well, let's see. Black belt in the martial arts. I studied for 10 years. I'm an accomplished musician. I've been playing music since I was 9, and I work at Harvard during the day, and I write in my spare time.
And why now? I mean, it's why start writing at this point in time in your life?
Well, I started about 10 years ago. You know, you get that little voice inside your head that says, it's time now. And I started writing. My first book was about a guy in Colorado who finds terrorists in his own backyard, and this was a couple of years before 9/11. I was finishing up the book when 9/11 hit, and it landed on my birthday.
I'll be darned. Yeah. And that cry for hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time I think that I have seen an out-of-body superhero ever in fiction. Where did this idea come from?
Well, it's actually based on my own experiences. I had to play dead to survive a terrifying encounter, and when the danger passed, I got up and I saw somebody lying on the ground, and it was me.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you've had an out-of-body experience?
Yes, and this book was a way of presenting it to mainstream America without starting a cult.
Yeah, well, and here we go. That your first book, A Cry for Hero, with the success of that one, on to the next, and your latest. I had the opportunity to sit down and go through the book, spend some time with the book, and make my way through. Nice writing, number 1. Great history lesson, number 2. And was that intentional? Was the opportunity to go through the history of the Sand Creek Massacre?
Absolutely. I immersed myself in the Cheyenne culture for several months before I started writing, just so that it was fresh in my mind. And there's not too much. I didn't want to bog the story down. I wanted to introduce the characters. It's action adventure, as you know. And then in the second book, the follow-up, Legend of the Dogman, I can go a little deeper into the history and the culture and the philosophical nature of the Cheyenne.
Yeah, the book itself. You used a quote at the beginning of the book by this an old gospel tune, "The Blind Plowman." The God who took away my eyes, that now my soul may see. That really is the basis for this book, isn't it?
It is. Without giving too much away, Jared Nealing, the hero, has he's tested pretty heavily in this.
And this particular story, this particular book, give us a synopsis, if you wouldn't mind, for those readers out there.
Sure. Jared Nealing is a park ranger in Glacier National Park, and book opens up. He's on a cliff by the waterfalls with his horse, wondering where next to steer his life. His foster parents are dead. He doesn't know who his biological parents are, and after a near-fatal misstep, he finds himself inside a cave where a lone shaman tells him this incredible tale. It tells him about Sand Creek, and that the legend says when the wind sleeps on the mountain and the blue moon bleeds red, the white devil will return to finish what it started back at Sand Creek. It's going to wipe out the Cheyenne people, and that Jared is in fact the legendary dogman who is charged with stopping this maniac.
It's obviously you've done that synopsis a time or two before, haven't you?
I sure have.
Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating read, and again, as I had mentioned, a great history lesson for those unfamiliar with the Sand Creek Massacre in Colorado back in, it was 1864. Tell me a little bit about the massacre, and for those unfamiliar.
Well, the white man signed the treaty with the Cheyenne and said, you can go over here to Sand Creek and live in peace. We'll leave you alone. That didn't last too long. This Colonel Shivington and his band of renegades went in there early one morning while the camp slept, and they massacred men, women, and children. They paraded through the streets of Denver, after this was all said and done, and with entrails hanging off their horses and heads on pikes, and it was pretty nasty. But a band of Cheyenne escaped, and Shivington chased them for 3 months into Montana and gave up the chase. It was the dead of winter, people were dying, and there was this lost band of Cheyenne. So that's where my story picks up 150 years later.
Well, and it really is, again, a fascinating read, a fascinating story. I can't wait to dive into A Cry for Hero as well. And these only 2. Do you have plans for more? Are you writing your next already?
Yeah, I have the next 5 books plotted out, and I'm working on my next book is called Old Souls.
The next 5 books already planned out.
Yes.
You're going to keep yourself quite busy here, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to quit my day job at Harvard at some point.
And I got to ask you, how does a guy from Harvard dive into the Rocky Mountains and a superhero out of body, and then a shaman and a dogman? How do you get from that point to this point?
Well, I'm tied to this area of the country. That much is clear, even though I live on the East Coast, and that's a beautiful part of the U.S. But my heart is here in the Rockies, and the culture, the Cheyenne culture and the Native American culture is just something that I have a great affinity for.
Well, again, the book tour continues. How has the book tour been, by the way? How has the response been?
Very well. I was in Cheyenne last Saturday. Tomorrow I'm in Casper here at Ralph's Books, and then I go to Fort Collins, Barnes & Noble. And then next week, I go to Scotts Bluffs.
Well, and what a wonderful opportunity to spend some time with your family. Again, your brother Stephen here. Mom came out for the tour as well. Brother Bob down in Cheyenne. And an old homecoming for you. Jonathan Womack at Ralph's Books and Cards tomorrow afternoon from 3 till 5. I'm guessing you're going to have both books available?
Yes.
All right. So A Cry for Hero is available to you, as well as The Last Dogman at Ralph's Books and Cards tomorrow afternoon, 3 to 5. A pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for carving out some time to slip in and see us.
Thank you, Brian.
You bet. Author Jonathan Womack again at Ralph's Books and Cards tomorrow afternoon, 3 to 5. You can find out a tremendous amount, I believe, on the website as well, www.jonathanwomack.com. Any questions? Find him there or find him at Ralph's tomorrow afternoon. Under some cloudy skies this morning, we do have 45 degrees at 10:30. KTWO.
In a few months, it'll be really cold in Wyoming. This